Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting. It's 4:30, so we would like to begin Nissan Motors financial results announcement for the first quarter of fiscal year 16. Thank you for joining us today out of your tight schedule. We would like to begin with the presentation by CVP Mr. Tagawa, followed by a Q&A session. The session for today will be broadcasted through internet, including the Q&A session. Mr. Tagawa will now make the presentation on the earnings. Mr. Tagawa, the floor is yours. Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for the announcement of Nissan's first quarter earnings for fiscal year 2016. Today, I will outline our headline figures, our global sales performance, and financial results for the 3 months ending June 30th, 2016. Following the presentation, I will be happy to take any questions you may have. For the first quarter of fiscal year 2016, Nissan is reporting solid financial results despite currency headwinds and continued volatility in the emerging markets. Healthy demand for our core products in North America and Western Europe and our continued focus on cost efficiencies contributed to the improvement in the underlying business performance, which was offset most of the negative forex headwinds, which has been significant. We haven't changed the full year guidance. For the 3-month period of June 30th, consolidated net revenues was 2.65 trillion yen. Operating profit totaled 175.8 billion yen, which equates to an operating margin of 6.6%. Net income was 136.4 billion yen, which represents a 5.1% net margin. Free cash flow for the automotive business was 229.4 billion yen, and we ended the period with an automotive net cash position of 1.365 trillion yen. To give you a better, if we exclude the forex impact, revenue increased by 3.2%, and the operating profit went up by 37.8% to 267 billion yen. Now, let me talk about, before talking about the full year guidance and the breakdown, let me give you the sales performance for the first quarter. During the 3-month period, during June 30th, the global total industrial volumes, or TIV, reached 22.79 million units, an increase of 3.5%. Nissan's total unit sales were 1.287 million units, a decrease of 7,000 units as the effect of the days and Days-Rooks minicar stop sales in Japan was partially offset by sales increases in other regions. Looking at our key markets in detail. In Japan, TIV fell by 1.9% to 1.08 million units. Nissan saw unit sales decline by 25.4% to 90,000 units, resulting in a market share of 8.3%. Conditions remain challenging due to the stop sales of the Days and Days-Rooks minicars, as well as continued weakness in consumer confidence and an aging product lineup. As we move through the balance of the year, we expect to improve our market performance with the restart of Days and Days-Rooks sales beginning earlier this month and the refresh of some core models in the current fiscal year, including the all-new 5th-generation Serena, which is scheduled to go on sale in late August. The new Serena will feature Nissan's autonomous drive technology ProPilot, which can automatically control the accelerator, brakes, and steering in single-lane highway driving in both heavy and flowing traffic. In China, where our sales performance is measured on a calendar basis, Q1 TIV was up 6% to 6.3 million units. Nissan sales increased 0.8% to 299,000 units, representing a market share of 4.7% for the quarter. This reflects continued solid demand for models including the X-Trail, Sylphy, and Qashqai. As China is reported with the 3-month lag, we also have the sales figures for Q2. In the Q2 period, TIV increased 10.1% to 6.01 million units, and our sales increased 6.7% to 311,000 units. And our market share reached 5.2%. So for the 6-month period to the end of June, our China sales reached 610,000 units, which was up 22,000 units or 3.8% versus the prior year period. Looking deeper at our 6-month sales performance in China, Nissan's passenger vehicle sales increased 6.6% to 526,000 units. The growth in passenger vehicle sales was partially offset by lower sales of light commercial vehicles, where we saw a decrease in our sales of 11.2% to 84,000 units, reflecting general LCV market TIV softness. In North America, TIV increased by 1.5% to 5.52 million units, and Nissan outperformed the market by delivering record unit sales of 529,000 units, an increase of 8.9%. In the United States, TIV was down 0.2% at 4.56 million units. Nissan sales rose by 7.9% to 398,000 units, equivalent to a market share of 8.7%, amid strong demand for Altima, Rogue, and the new Maxima. In Canada, Nissan reported unit sales up by 7.1% to 39,000 units, resulting in a market share of 6.7%. In Mexico, Nissan maintained its number one position, with unit sales increasing 14.6% to 91,000 units, equivalent to a market share of 24.4%. In Europe, including Russia, Nissan sales were in line with our plan and totaled 183,000 units. Excluding Russia, Nissan sales rose by 4.7% to 162,000 units, which resulted in a market share of 3.4%. This performance reflected Nissan's strong position as one of the top Asian brands in Europe and continued demand for models such as Qashqai, Navara, and the Infiniti Q30. Furthermore, we will launch the all-new Micra later in the fiscal year. In Russia, the market continued to be adversely affected by the weak ruble and economic uncertainty. Nissan sales decreased 38.2% to 21,000 units, resulting in a 5.9% market share. In other markets, Nissan sales decreased 8.6% to 186,000 units due to volatile demand and adverse currency movements. Unit sales in Asia and Oceania decreased 3.7% to 84,000 vehicles. Sales in Middle East were down 11.4% to 44,000 units, and sales in Africa and others were down 20.3% to 20,000 units. Although sales in Latin America fell by 8.5% to 38,000 units, Nissan outperformed the market. Moving to our financial results, as with previous quarters, Nissan is presenting its financial performance under the equity accounting method for our joint venture in China. On this basis, consolidated net revenues totaled 2.65 trillion yen. Operating profit totaled 175.8 billion yen, which equates to an operating margin of 6.6%. Net income was 136.4 billion yen, which represents a 5.1% net margin. The shortfall in these metrics versus the prior year's result is due to the significant negative impacts of year-over-year forex changes, which are not completely offset by improved underlying operational performance. Looking at the operating profit movement in detail, volume and mix produced a positive impact of 19.4 billion yen. The increase in selling expenses resulted in a 34.7 billion yen negative movement. Cost items, including purchasing cost reduction efforts, resulted in net savings of 72.9 billion yen. R&D expenses decreased by 7.2 billion yen. Manufacturing expenses increased by 6.3 billion yen. Other items had a positive impact of 14.8 billion yen. On a constant currency basis, operating profit improved 37.8% to 267 billion yen. Forex, however, had a negative impact of 91.2 billion yen, resulting in a reported operating profit of 175.8 billion yen. In terms of net cash, we ended the period with automotive net cash position of 1.365 trillion yen. This represents a decline from the 1.5 trillion yen at the end of the last fiscal year, as the positive free cash flow from the automotive business was unable to fully offset the significant translation impact from foreign exchange rate volatility on overseas cash balances, as well as dividend payments and stock buybacks in the period. On a management proforma basis, which includes the proportional consolidation of our Chinese joint venture, our key indicators show that net revenues total 2.89 trillion yen for the quarter. Operating profit was 209 billion yen. Net income totaled 136.4 billion yen. Automotive free cash flow was 231 billion yen. And we ended the period with automotive net cash of 1.5 trillion yen. On a proforma basis, our actual operating profit margin was 7.2%, up by 0.2 percentage points from the prior period. Again, these results reflect improved underlying business performance, which is being somewhat masked by the significant forex headwinds. On the constant currency exchange rate basis, proforma net revenues show an increase of 4.3% to 3.26 trillion yen, and operating profit improved 38.4% to 304.1 billion yen. Relative to our financial outlook for the full fiscal year, we are maintaining our previously announced full-year guidance. We also continue to project a full-year dividend of 48 yen per share, a 14.3% increase from the prior year, which is equivalent to dividend yield of 4.7% against the closing stock price of last year. In addition, the previously announced share buyback program is still underway, and we continue to offer an attractive shareholder return policy. In summary, Nissan has delivered solid financial results for the quarter. Our underlying performance improved significantly in this 3-month period, reflecting strong demand for core models in North America, a continuing rebound in Western Europe, and our ongoing focus on cost efficiencies. This helped offset recent unfavorable currency movements and challenging conditions in emerging markets. We have started the fiscal year with good momentum. Although we face market uncertainty and currency headwinds, we expect to continue to deliver solid earnings and free cash flow generation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Tagawa. We would like to start the Q&A session. If you have a question, we'll bring you a microphone. So please use the microphone when you are speaking. You are asking a question. Please limit yourself to 2 questions per person in order to entertain as many questions as possible from the floor. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Nihon Keizai Shimbun. I am Hoshi. I have 2 questions. One is about Forex. The other one is the sales in Japan. The first question. In the first quarter, 90 billion yen, close to more than 90 billion yen of Forex impact was reckoned. In Nissan Power 88, in the first half of Nissan Power 88, Forex free, you are promoting localization around the world to be free from Forex impact. But due to the rapid appreciation of Japanese yen, you are impacted. So Forex impact still significant. And what's the reason behind it? After the 311, the yen was strong. And how less susceptible are you to the strong yen? Is there any quantitative figure that you can show us to show the reason or the cause of the Forex impact and how strong you are against the yen? And next is about the sales in Japan. Between April and June, you were affected by the suspension of sales of the K cars because of the scandal around Mitsubishi Motors. So there was a big decline in the volume. But from July, you resumed the sales of Days and Days Rooks. In the end of July, looking at the latest performance, how is the fuel economy issue impacting Nissan sales performance as of today? And 580,000 units was the sales plan that you had in the initiation of the year. Is this attainable? How are you going to recover the performance in Japan? These are the two questions. Thank you for your questions. The second one, talking about the Japanese sales. Today, we have Hoshino-san, who is the Senior Vice President who is responsible for Japanese market, will be here to answer. Talking about Forex, which is the first part of the question. Out of 91.2 billion of negative impact, one third, about 34 billion yen, is due to yen-dollar rate. Traditionally, when you talk of Forex, yen-dollar rate was the significant amongst others. But today, as of today, emerging countries' currencies' negative impact was pretty significant for the first quarter. To be specific, Mexican peso, Canadian dollar, Russian ruble, these natural resource countries' currencies are deteriorating. Well, it's very difficult to localize and establish new plants and local sourcing in all the emerging countries. So these impact remain. But due to the translation impact, we reckon it on yen-denominated figures. So for example, on the paper, if all the imports and exports are balanced, there's a translation impact. We cannot avoid this. Is there any specific number? That was your question. In yen-dollar rate alone, the sensitivity, if there's the impact of 1 yen, what's the impact on profit? That's what we show you as a reference. At one time, when we started Nissan Power 88 with 1 yen, there was more than 20 billion yen of impact on operating profit. But last year, it was 12 billion yen. It was much smaller last year. But this year, we started exporting Rogue. And also from summer, Armada export will start. So 12 billion yen increase to about 14 billion yen. That's the assumption. But compared to the over 20 billion yen sensitivity, it's much smaller now because we are using imported parts or is promoting localization. Compared to some competitors, our localization efforts and the exposure to the currencies are much smaller in terms of risk. That's how we see it. With regards to Japan, I would like to invite Ms. Hoshino, who will be speaking, including what the field people are saying. Yes, I'm in charge of Japan. My name is Hoshino. There were two questions in your question. After resuming the sales of days, how is the performance? Irrespective of the inconvenience caused, there were many people waiting for a day series and the order intake is pretty healthy. Having said that, those who waited for the day series, after we stopped taking the orders for the people who are waiting, we don't know what will happen to the day series sales. So it's very difficult. We are not revisiting our projection precisely. Having said that, order intake in July is strong. That's what we can say. And fiscal year 16, total 580,000 units was what we projected for Japan last time. But we assumed that there will be a last-minute demand before the hike of the consumption tax. So because we don't have a last-minute demand, this may slow down the sales. That's one. And the negative impact from day series up to we only incorporate the impact of days suspension of sales up till the end of June only. So I cannot project how much there will be additional impact for the remainder of the year. So we have to watch the run of events. So our objective for now is the figure which is a little softer than what we initially projected. Is there any recovery plan that you can share with us? With regards to recovery plan, about days are you talking about? No, overall in Japan. Okay, this year, Serena will be equipped with ProPilot, which is an autonomous driving technology, which will be launched on the 23rd of August, 24th, no, 24th of August. Serena, to start with, is a popular model. So in fact, we are receiving a lot of pre-orders already. So we can make a rocket start, or at least that's our intention. So the sales activities, we are preparing for the sales activities involving the dealers. We are covering all the bases now. That's one. And the other one is e-Power. This is Nissan specific. I think because Nissan has a Nissan Leaf, this technology is possible. It's a new powertrain. We call it e-Power. An e-Power equipped compact car will be introduced in fall. And this product again is truly new. It's a new powertrain. You can experience what you have never experienced in the past. So we are looking forward to our large number of sales, which will help us recover the performance in Japan. And there's another thing. Days minor change. For Days Rooks minor change is scheduled. And I don't know how long it will take for the existing days to come back. So the minor change for Days Rooks is yet to be scheduled. We haven't determined the date, but we have this in the plan. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hoshino.
Hansan? North American operating profit has come down. What is the reason for the declined operating profit in North America? The unit number is up, but the operating profit has come down. What is the reason? Well, probably the segmented information has disclosed about North America, and it says that compared with the previous year, operating profit has come down a little. I think you are referring to that. There are two reasons to that. The first reason being the incentives, the sales cost in relation to sales, as you know, especially for the small-sized and the medium-sized Altima and Versa, the sales competition is very fierce. Our company has always maintained that with respect to Detroit 3 or with respect to Japanese car makers, sedan proportion, passenger cars proportion is a little higher for us. And we have a model mix slightly higher with that. And these models would take more sales costs. That's one of the reasons. Another reason, I think I mentioned it in the overall presentation, it's the currency impact. North American segment, if you analyze the North American segment, you have Canadian dollar, Mexican peso. So currency impact, actually, if you remove that, the profit is increasing. So had it not been for the currency impact, as a matter of fact, actually the profit has increased. So our business per se is not in anything in a problematical situation. Current situation has come about because of the increased sales costs for sedans as well as the currency impact. That is our analysis.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to next question. Yes? Nikkei Shimbun, Shiraishi speaking, talking about the sales in Japan again. The hike on consumption tax is postponed. So 5 million units was the TIV projection, which was initially projected for this fiscal year. Approximately how far will TIV fall for this fiscal year? What's your assumption for the TIV this year for Japan? Well, if Ms. Hoshino has something to say, she can. Revisitation of TIV or sales volume hasn't happened. As Ms. Hoshino said, we are seeing the TIV and sales unit of Nissan with a softer number. A specific number is yet to cannot be disclosed at this moment. Hoshino-san, am I right? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Okay, anyone else with a question from the floor? Yes, the person at the very back. Nippon Hoso, my name is Hatanaka. Talking about sales in Japan again. Your market share is one single digit today for Nissan. This is the first time that we are seeing. Isn't it a shocking outcome for all of you? How do you assess the market share in Japan today? Hoshino-san will answer.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I don't know where. Oh, yes, good. Yes, naturally, as you said, it's in a single digit market share. Well, it's extremely shocking, as you said. But having said that, we know the clear reason behind it. So the degree of the shock, if I may, we are not really depressed and don't know what to do. It's not as bad. And on top of this, Days and Days Rooks stopped sales. So the stop sales of Days and Day Rooks, excluding the impact of stop sales of Days Rooks is excluded from the denominator and compared with the real sales volume. So excluding the impact of Day series, non-Days model sales are selling at a much larger number than what we projected initially. So the sales and marketing Japan team is highly motivated in that sense. So they are happy. I wouldn't say they are happy, that they feel the sense of achievement in quarter one.
はい、ありがとうございます。では一番前の方。
Thank you. The person in the forefront. Kigawa from Toyo Keizai. 2 points. First question, Brexit, impact of Brexit, inclusive of the Great Britain, European sales. Do you feel any impact in Europe? You are still producing in the UK. Regarding your production activities, do you have any ideas? Of course, you don't have any clear consequence of Brexit. It's going to happen going forward. What is your idea about your production in the UK? That's the first question. The second point, other markets, Asia, Oceania, the TIV is growing and 3.7 is the decline. So especially Southeast Asian countries would be the major reason for that. So Datsun is introduced to these markets. So what's the current situation and what is your most recent outlook? Thank you very much. Brexit. What's the situation? What about the sales in UK? Is it plummeting? No, not at all. It's not like that. In the UK, we have a plant. From the 1980s, we started our operation. It's a factory with history, and 478,000 was the production volume amongst the Nissan factories, or even inclusive of Renault factories. Productivity is very high. Fantastic plant in the UK. So for us, British factories, it's a strength for us in terms of our competition, and going forward, it will remain so. As a matter of fact, as Kigawa-san said, what's going to happen to Brexit? We don't know the consequence. How is it going to end? It will take many years to come to a consequence. So if necessary measures are needed, then we will consider taking that. But as of now, we are competitive. We have the strength of UK factories, so we'd like to capitalize on that. In the recent situation, the weaker pound sterling 23rd of June, local time, since the decision of Brexit, yen has appreciated. Not only pound sterling, but yen has appreciated. So for a company, this was a source of direct impact for the company. So weaker pound sterling. We have a plant in the UK. We produce there and we export them. So export is about 75% of our production. So as a matter of fact, weaker pound sterling is a good story for us. But considering the costs of UK factories and parts and components, they come from the continent, and sometimes we pay in denominated in euro to British suppliers. So we are not in a happy situation about the weaker pound, but we have some countermeasures. For example, regarding the pound sterling exposure, that can be reduced. If necessary, we will do that. If necessary, we will do that. But at least, relatively speaking, so we compared with the company not having a plant in the UK at all, relatively speaking, we have a plant in the UK, and the weaker pound sterling is not a bad story at all. It's not all bad stories only. Other markets, as you pointed out, yes, for example, Indonesia, Thailand, still in these markets, we have a weaker situation in terms of sales. So talking about that side, Datsun, you mentioned Datsun. Datsun Ready Go is a new type, and it started sales from June, Ready Go itself. The sales in June, 1,700 on retail basis, we hear here. 5,000 already have been produced. So locally, India Nissan, 10,000 orders were received. So we have started a very smooth sailing. So at the financial results, this good result has not been shown, but going forward, Ready Go and non-Datsun models could restore the situation, will bring in the recovery. I believe so. Thank you very much.
Yes, the middle row, please.
NHK
Yoshitake is speaking. I have a couple of questions. One is about in the revenue and operating profit of Q1 are decreasing for each one. This is the first time after how many years for this Q1? Looking at the past years to have the decrease in operating profit and revenue. You talk about the Forex impact earlier. This is the second part of the question. From the initiation of the year, Forex is volatile. And against such backdrop, Forex volatility, how is it affecting your strategy, such as localization? Are you accelerating localization because there's a Forex volatility? These are the two questions. Thank you for your question. Decreasing revenue and operating profit. This is the first time after how many years? Hamaguchi-san will speak. With regards to revenue, this is the first time after 7 years that we are seeing a decrease in revenue. For operating profit, this is the first time after 3 years that we are seeing the decrease in operating profit. Thank you, Hamaguchi-san. That answered your question. Net income. Net income. Net income. This is the first time after 4 years that we see a decrease in net income. And the second point, Forex volatility, how does it affect our strategy? There's no change in our strategy. We have, during Nissan Power 88 and even before Nissan Power 88, we were promoting localization. Localization is not only about localizing the assembly of vehicles, even it's for powertrain and parts and components, we try to promote local sourcing as much as possible. Traditionally, we used to export parts from Japan, but among entities, we share parts and components, or we also deal with the local suppliers whom we have never experienced in the past. Or Japanese suppliers have their subsidiaries in the local entity, and we use these parts, and the parts are paid on the local currencies, and this remains unchanged. At one time, the yen was around 120 yen to the dollar. Comparatively speaking, compared to the competitors, we were less benefiting from the weaker yen. But today, with the stronger yen, we are the first one to make an announcement this time. But compared to some of the competitors, the Forex impact is smaller, relatively speaking. That's what we foresee. So we continue to promote localization irrespective of the forex. No matter whether the currency of the natural resource countries go up or down, there's no change in our strategy of localization.
じゃあ前から2番目の方。
The person in the second row from the front. Shinjo from Magazine X. Power 88. My question is related to Nissan Power 88. Midterm business plan. This is the last business year and the first quarter is ended. So 6.6 OP margin is a little lower than the original plan. I'm sorry for Ms. Hoshino, but Honda-Nissan relationship, Honda is declining, but Nissan is also coming down.
2位っていうのは、
The clear-cut second position, Mr. Saika was mentioning drawing down the flag, but in relation to the progress of Nissan Power 88, what is the status of progress? The second point will be addressed by Ms. Hoshino. The first question, the profitability.
とはご案内のように
Power 88, 8% OP and 8% global market share. Now, 8% global market share, that side first. For example, in China, the island-related issues have come up and other problems have come up. And at a time like that, we didn't want to sacrifice profitability to attain 8% global market share. So this objective, the objective per se, is something that we want to achieve eventually. It remains, but within this fiscal year, we are not thinking of achieving it. Now, profitability of 8% profit margin. When we made the midterm business plan, we introduced a proforma management for Chinese joint venture, but we showed you the proforma is the basis that we calculate last year 7% and first quarter last year 7% is against that. This year first quarter there was such a headwind because of the currency, and yet we have 7.2%. As you say, it's still 7.2. It hasn't reached 8%. So throughout the fiscal year, it may be difficult to attain 8%, but Power 88 will come to an end by this end of this fiscal year. But we want to have an underlying performance which will be able to produce that kind of profitability. That is the aim that we are striving toward. Regarding the domestic market, I will turn to Ms. Hoshino. Thank you very much for your question. Now, Power 88 objectives, targets. It's not the targets of Power 88, but respectively, we have medium to long-term objectives. And we still maintain that. And we are striving toward that goal. We continue our efforts so that we reach that. Power 88, we have targets and objectives, of course, and COP 8% and market share should be increased. But this year, unfortunately, because of the days incidents, we have spent 2 full months and 10 days. We didn't have the sales of that duration. And it will be very difficult to regain that loss totally. But excluding that, if you look into the share of other areas, we think that we are able to regain the loss. Talking about the calendar year, by June, registered cars basis, we have a second place. So throughout the year, excluding days and days rooks, in those areas, we will be coming close to this objective of going there.
We are running out of time. So anyone else with a question from the floor? No? Okay, one more. Yes, go ahead.
The Wall Street Journal. Any updates you guys can give us on Mitsubishi Motors, your efforts there?
はい、まずは
Thank you for your question. Okay, let me translate it into Japanese just to make sure. What's the update on the possible partnership with Mitsubishi Motors, let me answer in Japanese. As of today, due diligence is underway until the end of August. That's our schedule. So as of today, there's nothing new that I can disclose. With regards to due diligence, Mitsubishi Motors have been very cooperative and active and providing information immediately, which we appreciate a lot. So far, when we had talks with them, and they feel that there's a synergy opportunity, but there's nothing new that I can talk about, whether it's a financial amount or the timing or what we discovered in due diligence. There's nothing new that we can disclose as of today.
はい、ありがとう。
Thank you. Okay, with this, we would like to close the session. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.